Oops. Oh, whoops. Totally muted the wrong thing. Sorry about that, guys. All right, y'all. I've officially tinkled. So let's go ahead. Okay. If we're gonna play some Faz, I want us to at least have a little bit of time, and I have a million and one things to do before bed tonight. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna skip past this video because it's kind of just reiterating the signs of social anxiety. Instead, let's look up a quick signs of social anxiety, just to summarize here what we've talked about. Where's some good infographics here? I mean, I feel like the physical stuff is not super helpful, but yeah, fear of social situations, particularly being judged or humiliated in public, being embarrassed, avoiding social situations, over analyzing past social interactions. I think that's a thing that I didn't realize. Do I have a bell? Do I have a bell? A bell on what? Like on my channel, you mean? So you know when I'm going live? Do I not have a bell on my channel? Let me see. Now I'm curious. Man, I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of a banger playlist tonight, honestly. Can you say it's a banger if this is lo-fi? I feel like you can. I'm gonna call it a banger. Bangers. Make it tinkle bell. Lol. I like it. Man, I got debated on that. Well played, Alpha. Well played. Okay, hold on. What was I doing here? Pop back into this. I need a better situation for my dual mic set or dual monitor setup here. I don't like my setup. Okay. What else? Blushing, sweating, trembling in social situations. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's a pretty common one that most people know about. But yeah, over analyzing and ruminating on past social interactions. I know that I've definitely struggled with that, especially when I was younger. Nowadays, maybe do that if I'm dating someone. I'll be obsessive about it. But I don't do that in social situations that much anymore, which I think is a healthy step forward. So, all right, let's keep this up for about another. We'll stop at 9:30, and then we'll switch to games here. Also have the Bigfoot game. What is the Bigfoot game? Bigfoot game. Bigfoot. Yo, what is this? This looks kind of fun. This looks like oh, what was that Left 4 Dead game where like you could play as different monsters and there's like the good side and the evil side and the monster like hunts the humans? Is this similar to that at all? This looks fun though. Bigfoot. The graphics look really nice for an indie game. Interesting. Okay, let's wrap up with what to do about social. I think it was called Prey or Predator or something like that. It was quite a while ago. Just excited I could play games with you guys. I know, right? I mean, you know, you could play cross-play games with us before, but it's awesome that you can play like on PC exclusive games now and stuff for sure.
Hey, Psych2Goers.
Oh God, sorry guys.
Are you always worried that other people are judging you when you're out and about? It's
800.
normal to feel slightly anxious or uncomfortable when you're hanging out with coworkers.
Yeah, I feel like a good range for a PC, like a PC build, is somewhere around like the between $500 to $1,000 range is usually where you can get something like really solid. I think if you're spending less than that, or like even if it's just around 500, you're gonna get kind of like not the best stuff. I think around the $750 to $1,000 range is like a really good sweet spot, especially for a first PC. And then of course you've got some people that are crazy and go like all out and make like, you know, insane mega PC builds, but I think that's overkill for 99% of people. Oh, and it's a laptop. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think for that price, you can definitely get something really good.
Or people you've never met before. However, When your anxiety from being in social settings becomes so overwhelming or even debilitating that it starts affecting your daily life, it may be a sign of social anxiety. The symptoms can vary from sweating and trembling to experience.
Flamin got that budget build going on. I respect it, man. I mean, I feel like even with budget builds nowadays, though, you can get stuff that's still pretty respectable. I think if you're, but yeah, I think the 500 and below range can be tough sometimes. See the specs of both if you're on Discord. Oh yeah, you should. I'd be curious to know what kind of stuff you got. I'm curious to know what processor and graphics card it has. I'm getting weird messages on LinkedIn, y'all.
Nausea and dizziness. Severe social anxiety can even cause some to avoid social situations or going out altogether.
I mean, that's just me all the time.
Here are 6 ways to overcome social anxiety. Before we begin, we would like to mention that this video is created for educational purposes only and is not intended to substitute a professional diagnosis. If you suspect you may have social anxiety or any mental health condition, we highly advise you seek help from a qualified mental health professional.
I agree. Disclaimer, this stream does not represent official mental health diagnosis. I am a mental health coach, though. I have seen people as a psychotherapist in training. So if you're interested in overcoming social anxiety, feel free to reach out, or working on relationships or all that other stuff. I built it. I didn't want to mess up 100. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. So like, I'd move the camera around, but I'm like OCD about my camera, so I don't want to move it. But yeah, this is actually my first PC build, although I've changed out a lot of stuff on it. The fan, the CPU, the graphics card, and the motherboard, because I accidentally destroyed my original motherboard trying to change out the CPU. So I've changed almost everything in this thing, but luckily when I made my first PC build ever, I was with an ex of mine at the time, and she had made several PC builds before, so she definitely like helped a lot with it. So I totally get like making a PC build for the first time is like really nerve-wracking, because I've definitely fucked up some components not knowing what I was doing. So
let's begin. Number 1, create awareness. Do you feel overwhelmed by the thoughts in your head? Sometimes when you're out at a social event, you may feel like everybody is judging you, or how you look, or how you behave. But
my man's not
more
even
often
wearing
than
a
not,
tie.
These negative thoughts are untrue and may actually stem from your own insecurities and criticism of yourself.
Yeah, kind of like what we were
By creating a
talking
habit
about before.
of becoming more mindful and aware of where your thoughts are coming from, you can start to notice the triggers that cause your social anxiety to worsen and challenge and disarm these intrusive thoughts. Number 2, engage in relaxation techniques. Are there things you do when you find yourself feeling anxious? If not, you can practice some relaxing techniques since they can be incredibly helpful, especially when your anxiety becomes overwhelming. One strategy.
And I think the relaxation thing is a good tip for anxiety of all types. And so one thing that's very similar to that we've talked about on stream before is distress tolerance skills from DBT. DBT distress tolerance. And we've talked a little bit about DBT in the past, but there's kind of 4 major components of dialectical behavioral therapy. Let me look up DBT in general first. Mindfulness, emotional regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness. So I think a lot of the distress tolerance stuff from DBT, for those of you who have ever like been to a therapist and experienced DBT before, a lot of that stuff's really highly applicable to social anxiety. Being able to put yourself in a social setting, and then as that anxiety comes up, really being able to do things like breathing techniques, mindfulness, that sort of stuff to help lower the volume on the anxiety so you can like socially function and not have a panic attack. Where's that video at?
Strategy is diaphragmic breathing, also known as deep breathing.
She completely butchered the word diaphragmatic.
Deep breathing engages the diaphragm and allows you to take in more air. Notice how your stomach rises and falls with each breath. Engaging in relaxation techniques can help you better prepare for moments of extreme anxiety. However, you should note that these techniques are not meant to substitute treatment for an anxiety disorder. Number 3, try yoga. Have you ever tried yoga? While that may seem cliche, yoga can be quite useful in combating anxiety. Because social anxiety involves cognitive, physical, emotional, and habitual sensations, yoga can help you relax and refocus your mind and body. Practicing different types of yoga poses can help you reduce your anxiety by engaging your mind and shifting your focus away from the overwhelming and negative thoughts in your head and into the exercises you're doing instead. Number 4, set goals. Are you trying to work on your anxiety on your own? If so, it's important to remember to set some goals.
Like the lo-fi
Having
beats
goals will help you figure
thing
out
they stole
where
there.
you want to go and guide you on how to get there. But it's essential that these goals are realistic and quantifiable, so you'll be motivated to continue making progress. There are some...
And I think that the setting goals thing ties into what's called not distress tolerance, exposure therapy. So exposure therapy, particularly for anxiety, is a thing you'll see a lot. Oftentimes nowadays it'll be a thing where your therapist will give you homework at a therapy session of like, hey, go out into a public setting and say hi to 5 people. Like, say, go out to a mall and say hi and strike up a conversation with 5 random people you meet. And for people with really, really bad social anxiety, that can be like a nightmarish idea, right? But exposure therapy is this idea of exposing ourselves to frightening or anxiety-provoking situations in small doses to help us kind of build our mental tolerance to it. So like one thing for me in particular, I'm like deathly afraid of heights. And so I hate flying. I hate it a lot. But when I went on vacation last week, I actually ended up flying like 3 different times. And it'd been like, oh Scott, it's probably been like 2 or 3 years since the last time that I flew, because I try to avoid it like the plague. The first flight that I was on, I was like so anxious. I was like, we're taking off and I'm like grabbing the fucking seat. I'm like, I'm gonna die, And, but then by the second flight, I got a little calmer. And then by the third flight, I'm like, this is no big deal, right? I think that's a testament to our ability to expose ourselves to uncomfortable situations in measured doses to kind of build up our mental muscle to overcome our fears, right? So if you're really anxious about socializing with people, especially people you don't know, setting little goals for yourself to go out and like, okay, this weekend, my friends invited me to a party. I'm going to try to strike up a conversation with one person there that I don't know. And then, the next week you try 2 people. And then next time you try approaching a group of people and introduce yourself and try to say something funny, that sort of thing. I think it works the same way with like dating too, because I know at least for men, sometimes like approaching women and stuff and striking up a conversation, especially if you also have social anxiety, can be really difficult. That's a thing that I practice too, of like getting comfortable walking up to people, and especially people of the opposite sex, because it's what I'm into, but maybe you're not into that. But just in general, walking up to people that you want to date and striking up a conversation, that sort of thing. That's an example of exposure therapy.
Online quizzes that can help you gauge your degree of anxiety. These can help give you something to work towards. When you meet one of your goals, remember to also celebrate and reward yourself for them. Number 5, make something. Do you enjoy painting or journaling? Art therapy can be a beneficial way of reducing social anxiety. Since social anxiety often stems from the fear of being judged, it can end up creating a need for perfectionism in yourself. Engaging in art therapy can be a way to help you accept your imperfections and even make something beautiful out of them. Additionally, social anxiety is regulated in the amygdala, an area responsible for emotions and sensory input from your environment. In this sense, art therapy can be a way for you to illustrate what you're feeling without needing to find the words for it. And number 6, therapy. Have you ever tried going to therapy? There are many types of treatments that could work for anxiety. The most common is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Yeah.
It's a technique often used to address many mental health conditions like depression, PTSD, and anxiety.
And I think with CBT, which we've talked about on numerous times on this stream, again, it's one of the most common methods of therapy. There's a lot of research that shows that it's really successful, or that's a really effective treatment method. But one of the big things you'll do if you go to a therapist who is using CBT to help you deal with your social anxiety, so a lot of what they do will be helping you understand and analyze your thoughts internally and then to challenge those thoughts. So if you're walking around with this narrative of like, I'm not good enough, people don't like me, people think my toes are smelly, you know, learning to notice those thoughts come up and then challenge them with like, you know what, actually, I can be pretty entertaining sometimes. You know what? Sometimes people want to show up to my stream and they have a good time. Sometimes I bathe my toes and they smell pretty gosh darn acceptable. Giving them toes, y'all. That sort of stuff, I feel like, can be really, really effective for dealing with anxiety. And then, again, like we talked about before, you know, when you struggle with social anxiety, you have this negative feedback loop that happens of, I have this negative internal narrative about myself. This ties into the thought, behavioral, emotion thing perfectly. I have these negative thoughts about myself, which lead me to isolate from other people or to be generally awkward in social situations, which then cause me to be rejected by other people, which make me feel bad about myself, which then reinforce those negative thoughts, and it could be a downward spiral. But in the same way, we can also cause an upward spiral for ourselves if we challenge those negative thoughts of, you know what? People, I do have people in my life that like me. I can meet new people and have that go well. Then you go meet someone or put yourself in a social situation and that goes well. And then you go, ha, see, this socializing thing's not so hard after all. And that causes you to think, you know what, maybe I can do this. And then you go out and next time you go talk to a whole group of people and that goes well. And you're like, you know what, I think I might be okay. And it causes this upward spiral, right? This positive spiral upward. So I think CBT as a catalyst for this can be really great. So I think therapy for social anxiety is really helpful, and learning to challenge those negative voices so that you can go out and start having more positive experiences. And it's the positive experiences of being in social situations, having that going well, that's could ultimately be the thing that helps you get out of the social anxiety, right? And maybe you'll always have it, but it won't be nearly as bad as when you started.
And anxiety. CBT helps you identify your negative thought patterns and gives you the tools to change them.
What relation that has to a hammer, I have no idea.
Systematic guided exposure. This involves
exposure therapy.
Exposing yourself to scary or anxiety-inducing things until you're not so scared anymore. It's a way of taking baby steps to overcome your anxiety. With the right guidance and support, you can slowly overcome your social anxiety. Have you tried these tips to help combat your anxiety? Let us know in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, be sure to...
Man, I think like lo-fi jazz is kind of like my new jam. I like jazz and I like lo-fi. I feel like you mix them together and it's like it's so good. So yeah, that's social anxiety, y'all. If you guys learned anything, feel free to comment in the chat. What did you learn today? What are you gonna do from here on out? If they're going to therapy or getting mental health coaching and are just unsure of how to go about that, or if you've been trying to work on your social anxiety and it's been giving you trouble, feel free to ask questions about it in the chat. I love talking about this stuff. So, yeah, and then next time we'll talk about something relationship-y. Might talk about abuse. We'll see. I've been doing a lot of studying relationship stuff lately for reasons not at all related to my own life. Who knows? My mental health therapy is gonna be the army. I mean, that might be a positive coping skill or a negative coping skill. I'm not sure. I love it though. I mean, I think that's awesome that you're hyped about it. What MOS are you interested in? Out of curiosity, do you know what MOSs are? So I had a period of my life where I was gonna try to join the military as well. I ended up getting injured and then didn't move forward with it. It was a big old thing. Infantry, okay. That's what I was gonna do too. I was gonna join the Marines at the time and I was gonna do infantry because I was young and hot-blooded, and yeah, that is what I mean. So your MOS is your military occupational specialty. Have you taken the ASVAB yet at all? Your boy did pretty well on the ASVAB, just not to brag. Man, that takes me back. I think I'm at the point now where I ended up not going through with it because I got injured. It was a big long thing. We won't get into it, but there's some times that I definitely regret it, and also sometimes that I'm like thankful. I'm also just at the point now. You need to score 31 to pick your job. Oh, gotcha. So you haven't taken it yet then? 21 to enlist. Scored to 22. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Interesting. So you've got technically good enough to enlist, but not enough for the MOS. So are you planning on retaking it then? Yo, this playlist is good. Also, yo, where are my gamers at? Flame, Alpha, you guys down to game? Are we doing Phasma? Is that what we decided on? Have 3 extra weeks to basic for them now. Okay, gotcha. Cool. I love it. Let's do some Phasma. Yeah, I think I remember that. If you retake the ASVAB, you have to wait a while, then you can retake it. Huh. Very cool. Well, I hope that goes well, man. Message me. Yeah, let me do that. Let me pop on over. You guys can see my beautiful face. It's all right. I don't brag. Ladies tell me they like it, but you know. Let's see. Where is my Steam code at? I'm always like, I feel like an hour and a half in. Yeah, I think that's really good. I'm super curious what kind of frame rates you'd get from like Fortnite or 8 later on this. You know what?